When thinking of mobile homes, the first thing to come to mind is not real estate investment. But today's guest, Adrian, is here to debunk the myths and reveal the hidden gems within this unique real estate niche. From uncovering the untapped potential of mobile home parks to sharing strategies for maximizing returns, Adrian will guide us through the surprising advantages and opportunities to make mobile home investing a lucrative venture. Welcome to the 529 podcast, where we interview successful entrepreneurs to share their experiences and insights with those interested in beginning their own entrepreneurial journeys. I am your host, Nathan Hanla, and today we have Adrian Smude, a seasoned real estate investor specializing in mobile homes. Adrian's journey began with a traditional real estate background, but he quickly discovered that the untapped potential is in mobile homes. Over the years, he has built a thriving business by challenging the common misconceptions about mobile homes and revealing their hidden profitability. Today, Adrian will discuss the myths surrounding mobile homes investing, the unique advantages of this niche, and strategies for maximizing returns in this often overlooked market. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Howdy, Adrian. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Nathan.
So, tell us, how did you get started in mobile real estate investment?
Well, I got started as a tenant a long time ago, and a really bad tenant at that. Essentially, my friends and I like to have parties. And we had some parties at a rental property that we were living in. We had spaghetti wrestling parties, mud wrestling, pudding wrestling. One we did not get caught for was a pool party inside the living room. And eventually we got tired of the eviction notices because that's not what landlords want. Fast forward a little bit, I am a problem solver. So I had to solve this problem of we keep getting evicted. So I bought a house. I had a family member that was a mortgage broker. He said, well, why don't you buy a house? So I bought a house, moved all my friends in to help me get evicted. And I rented out the rooms, but I divided up my mortgage amongst only them. So I was living for free at 20 years old, not with mom and dad. So I can't really think of a cooler scenario than that in a living situation like that. But I lived for free. I found out, hey, this is really cool. Like I said, I bought another house a few years later because I thought, well, if I'm not living in one of the rooms, then I would make money, right? You know, that was kind of logic. The bank said, hey, you're going to lose a little bit every month, but don't worry, real estate goes straight up. You'll refinance in a few years, and then your payment will go down. Well, in a few years, we were coming down in that last recession, so my property was worth less than I originally purchased it for, and I had one of those adjustable rate mortgages. So I went from losing a little bit every month to a little bit more every month. I eventually gave that home up as a short sale. Obviously, a ding to my credit, a ding to my ego, but really it was a ding to my integrity because I did not do what I said I was going to do. But I still had that first house because I bought it right and I was renting it right. I was living for free still, eating not ramen noodles, but Lipton noodle packets, the 99-cent packets because, I splurged with a can of tuna in it. Keep fast forwarding a little bit. I didn't get away from the real estate thing. I bought some more houses, but then eventually I found mobile homes. I found them because I was searching for something more. I was frustrated with the returns I was getting. Now, this is about 8 years ago, but I was frustrated then. So I've been wrong in the direction of the market. But that's how I found the mobile homes. I was talking to people that had been in the business way longer than me. So now I buy single unit mobile homes with the land and I rent them out. And that is my last 20 plus years combined in a few minutes there.
Wow, what an interesting story to begin. Right off the bat, everyone assumes mobile homes are just kind of a run down, maybe like not a good place to get it invested in. Because when you think real estate, you don't think mobile homes. So why'd you go there? Why'd you go into mobile real estate investing and why is it good?
Yeah, that is one of the common myths. And I get told that a lot whenever I'm at a real estate meeting. And I reply to the person, you're right, Nathan. They're terrible investments. They go down in value. They're all trailer trash, blah, 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 blah. Send me all your leads. And that's actually how I've gotten a lot of my leads, by other investors not understanding them and not respecting them at all. Why did I fall in love with them is probably the correct question there. Because I found them by searching for something else. I bought my first one and I realized the cash flow was massively more than I was getting on a single family house, like the corner ranch style house. So to give you kind of a quick explanation on that, I sold one house years ago and I bought 7 mobile homes with that same money. So I did a 1031 exchange, so I deferred paying my taxes. I sold one house, bought 7 mobile homes, and my cash flow went up 857%. So cash flow is one of the big reasons, but it's one of the many reasons I fell in love with mobile homes, because we could eat cash flow every month. We can't eat off of equity because that eventually stops.
When you first got started in it, was there kind of a mentor that kind of held your hand and got you the way through it? Or how did you first find out that this is something I should definitely start doing?
Great question. So I did not have a particular mentor. It's actually one reason I got in the education space, because there was no one to hold my hand and give me all the education on it. Yes, I had some, we'll say, mentors that didn't do it professionally, just people I talked to at meetings, and they bought mobile homes and they said, hey, I've done really well with them, or that was their main niche, or a different thing like that. So they gave me some information, but it wasn't in like a organized manner. They just said, yeah, I buy a mobile home and I rent it out, or, be careful with this. So it wasn't anything organized. So I had to learn it on the bumpy path. I'm not saying it's the wrong way to do it. It's a slower way. And I learned a lot of things the hard way, which is how I've done most of my career. And I did get it shortened, my learning curve, by some of those mentors. And that's what I look to do, is help shorten other people's path.
With these mobile home real estate investments, what is your strategy?
Great question. So the myths about them, the trailer trash, these are terrible investments, they go down in value. All of those, for some reason, people still believe today. Even extremely successful investors, I've even met investors that have been in the business way longer than I have, still believe all this. Now, the mobile home parks have gotten sexy because they got lots of zeros on the purchase price, so it makes for a good Instagram photo. But this little niche of the single unit with the land, for some reason, still hidden. I don't really know why, because I'm out there yelling about it. The return on investment's huge, and the dollars they get in is not huge in compared to other properties in the area. We have those things like for us and against us. Everything that seems like it's against us, all these negative stereotypes. Well, once I learned about it, I'm like, okay, well, that's not negative for me anymore. I kind of want to break this question into 2 separate segments of ages of mobile homes. We have 1960s and 1970s. Let's kind of group that in one, and I will call those the older mobile homes. And I'll say 1990s and newer. And then the 80s are kind of this like transition decade where it's a little bit of mix of the two. So let's first start about all the older ones. 1960s, 1970s. Well, you can't get bank financing. Insurance in Florida is basically impossible. New Orleans is another area of the country that it's really difficult. People think they go down in value. There's no value in them. And they're all quote-unquote trailer trash. So they have a lot of the really bad stigmas. Well, that means the value just plummeted. There's less people interested in them. Well, if banks won't finance it, and the last almost 2 decades, no one's needed a bank. No one's needed the non-bank world because they had the banks. The banks have been great. For the last 15-ish years plus, banks have a super low rates. They keep going down. They're financing everything. So no one has learned the non-bank world, meaning private money, friends and family that you know, like, and trust, and then the owner to finance it to me, the buyer. Those have become my 2 main ways of buying properties. I get to pay friends and family more than they're making in a savings account. They get some diversification, and I don't have to go to a bank. So once you really learn those 2 and how to set those up where everyone wins, well, now you can get past that hurdle that most people aren't learning how to get past. Well, you can't finance these. Of course, we can use cash, but pretty much no matter where you're at, cash eventually runs out. When we start out, we have none of it. And then as we grow, we have some, but it still runs out at some point. So getting past all these, we'll say, mindset blocks, I believe as real estate investors, really as any business owner, we get paid by solving problems. So we had that problem with the financing. All right, well, we solve it. Friends, family, owner, insurance. All right, well, that's a little bit of a problem. Well, that just means I have to buy at a better number because I took a larger risk. Now, at the beginning, I didn't buy them and have no insurance on it. I would have slept well, and there's no reason to buy something that makes you not sleep well at night. Some people will never be able to sleep well with that. Today, we self-insure more properties. So I look at that challenge, because that just started at the beginning of the year, that we cannot get insurance on them. I'm going to take that back, because we are working with a company this minute that is saying that they can insure some of these older ones. So there might be some companies opening up. But anyways, it's a really hard piece. Well, that just means less people in the market again. If I'm willing to take the risk, that means I have to get paid better. Less competition means there's less offers there. It means I get paid better. See how it keeps coming back to that? I like these hurdles because I learned how to get past them. I'm sure there's more we can talk about the older ones, but let's switch it real quick over to the newer ones, the 1990s and newer. Those are a stronger structure. They can get bank financing, so you can buy them and fix and flip those. Those older ones, we're not fix and flipping them in any traditional manner. We could fix and owner finance them to an end buyer. Yes, you have to comply with the Dodd-Frank, SAFE Act and all that, but we don't normally do that. The newer ones, we can buy, fix, and flip them. Think about any fix and flip real estate, it would run very similar to that. We can buy them with some bank financing. If you're going to go that route, I'm going to recommend you go into a community bank, a credit union, someone in your market, build that relationship. You're going to have to keep asking over and over, and eventually you'll find the one that likes them and specializes on them. See, a lot of people don't want to go and do that work and go and talk to multiple banks. Well, now you have the bank that will work with you. You can still do the owner financing, the private money, and those have a little bit more value. They don't depreciate as much because nothing goes to zero. And those we will buy, we'll fix them up, and we like to rent them, but you can fix and flip them. You've got to know what the final bank is going to require for the homeowner that's going to buy and live in it, what their requirements are for it to pass so that they'll finance it. So things like the skirting, the tie downs and straps, depending on what part of the country you're in, there's a little bit different items there. And it can change depending on what state, actually sometimes even by the county, what the codes are. And you've got to know what that is, because if not, you're going to find out when you go to close it to get cash out, oh, you need to put another $5,000 in this. We want to know that before we even buy it. I've thrown a lot at you. Tell me which direction you want to go.
Yeah, no, hey, that was a lot, but that was great. That was awesome. Digging into that, every rock you find isn't gold, so in this, I'm guessing even piles of mobile homes you come across, how do you kind of determine which ones are good or bad? Is there like a kind of analysis you take to the area, or how do you go about it?
Great question. So I like to put everything on a return on investment. I am a monthly cash flow investor. I like a bunch of small checks versus one large check. That's one reason I'm not a good fix and flipper, because I have a big check and now I'm like, oh, what do I do with this? I like checks that come in predictably over and over and over again. With that said, I look at everything that's going to affect that. And I look at a headache value. So that is something we cannot put on a spreadsheet. An older mobile home, the 60s and 70s, they're not as good of quality materials in it. There's no secret and, there's nothing hiding that. So that means we might have a little bit more repairs. Well, that just means I have more headache. More headaches, I want to get paid more. If it's in an area that is not going to attract the best quality tenant, or as I like to call them, residents, well, that means I'm going to have more headaches. So more headaches, I want to get paid more. The land may not be worth a lot. All right, well, that's okay. Now I just have to get paid enough to compensate for that. But maybe the land is worth a lot. So maybe I can pay a little bit more than the exact same property that the land's not worth anything. So I take a lot of these different things into consideration. Maybe my plan is to buy it and immediately owner finance it to an investor that cannot get a loan on it because it's one of those really old ones, but he or she is willing to do the work. They're a newer investor. They're putting sweat equity in it. A lot of us do that when we start out, and they're putting all that hammering and working on it in order to build up to where they don't have to go swing the hammer every day. Well, they're willing to maybe pay a higher interest rate if the payment will work where they can make some money. So that's exactly what I've been doing more recently, because we'll say, outgrown swinging the hammer. I put in that time, and Well, I have to do it sometimes, yeah, but I really strive not to because I'm not great at it. And other people are better at it. I'm much better at putting the deal together, managing the higher level stuff. I'm running the business essentially. So I can seller finance it to another investor, meaning I might be able to pay a little bit more because I'm going to make a lot of money on the interest. Well, why would he pay? Let's say I've done one recently. 14.02% interest rate is what he is paying. And he said that's okay. One reason he said that's okay because I told him, you name the payment and make sure you're going to make money with that payment. So he made sure the payment would allow him to make money on it every month. So yeah, he's going to pay for it a lot longer. He's going to pay a lot more interest. But I let him in it with lower dollars. We've done business before together. I told him, you know what? For the first 6 months, no payments. Go get this thing rent ready and get it where you can make some money on it. I want him to be able to make his payment every month because I don't want to take the property back. That means, well, he's not succeeding. It also means I have to do work to get it out there again. When we get into the problem solving, see how I'm solving his problem and he's kind of solving my problem. I didn't want to do the work. We're both able to make money, but in a different way that we're doing it. So another way to answer the question is I'm not scared of any property. There's nothing that I wouldn't buy, but that doesn't mean I'm going to hold it. There's nothing that's worth $0, but you could have so much debt on it that, yeah, I can't replace myself in the quicksand there. But if I truly want to solve your problem and you want your problem solved, which might mean you have to bring money to closing, which might mean that you are willing to take payments. I can't give you all the money right now. You might have to take a lower price. It's not always price, it's solving the problem. That is how we really make money. I can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. That just says, nope, I need this price and there's nothing else. And if their price is too high, I can't help them. But I can give you your price if it's on payments. And I've overpaid for multiple properties because, as the last story I said, that one I was selling and he made the payment. Well, I have bought where I paid, quote unquote, too much, but I was able to make the payment to make money on it. So there's that way. I have bought properties that people had to bring a little bit of money to the table. Like, I can't just pay the whole thing. You have to bring the money. He wanted out of it that bad. I have bought properties that were burned down. And I was like, I am not going to take this and rehab it. I'm not going to destroy it and put a new home on it. Just not my world. And that one was actually not even in my buy area. I don't normally even buy outside of a 30-minute little radius. But I knew I could make money on it. And I knew I could do it without having to manage it because I don't like to manage stuff that far out. I did give a price that included, a little bit more money on my side because I was going outside of my buy diamond. As long as we are looking to solve the problem, that we can still make money, and the seller kind of has to decide, yes, I'm willing to do that. And if they say no, we should ask another question and keep going over and over and over again until we find a solution that works for both of us.
When it comes to you buying these properties, are you buying the entire mobile home? Are you buying the land, other mobile home, and the mobile home? Or are you buying the whole mobile home park? What all are you purchasing?
Let's break this down into 3 main ways to invest in mobile homes. We could do the mobile home park. I mentioned earlier, those are sexy numbers, lots of zeros. It sounds like you got a lot of money, but you only have the equity and you only have the cash flow. All right, there's 2 main ways to run a mobile home park. You can own all the homes, all the land, you own everything. You essentially own a flat apartment complex. The other way you can run it is you only own the dirt, and people pay you every month to park their home there. They pay lot rent, we usually call it. Some areas of the country call it space rent. You own a big parking lot. And then you can own a combination of the 2 of those. It can be a hybrid. I do not actively invest in mobile home parks because, well, there's a lot more competition. Again, it's gotten big sexy. The hedge funds got into it. So the big syndications are in it now. So you're competing with them. There's more government regulation. It's multifamily. And personally, I like single family world a little bit more. So these are reasons I have taken those out of my vision. That doesn't mean my IRA might invest in a friend's syndication that's a mobile home park. Well, I understand it. He's already got a system to run them. and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So we can do mobile home parks like that. We can do the exact opposite end of the spectrum where we only own the unit. We do not own any dirt, and that is typically inside that mobile home park. It could also be on, we'll say, an acre of land, and the owner is renting out just the space to park it there. There's no other mobile homes. But essentially, you don't own the dirt. You only own the home. You own an aluminum box. Now, those are your cheapest meaning your smallest dollars way to get into real estate. It's technically not real estate, but it's housing, and it falls underneath a lot of the housing laws. We have bought those. We've done really good with those. We've made massive, huge return on our investments. We're talking north of 50%. Really, we should be shooting north of 100%. But we got higher risk on those because we don't own any dirt. In Florida, we have those things called hurricanes. You guys in Texas, part of Texas understands hurricanes. And they come and turn them into hurricane magnets, hurricane missiles. Out west, you have tornado. So if one of those rips away and you don't own any dirt, well, you don't have anything. So those are not a big part of my portfolio focus. We don't own any at this minute, but they were very important for our growth. Will I buy some more? I'm sure one day. But they are a little bit heavier management, a little bit lower value, lower dollars to get in, but our return on investment is huge. Another reason I'm not a big fan of those where I'm at today is the manager makes all of the rules. Well, that means that if they want to change the rules, I don't have any say, really. Yeah, I can try to fight them and stuff, but you're going to spend a lot of time and money in that. So I'm not trying to discourage anyone from them, but you just got to know what you're getting into when you use those. Then you have that middle that we've mainly been talking about is a home and land together. Well, if a hurricane rips the home away, at least I own the dirt. So I still have something to go back to and maybe put a new one on or use one or anything. I get to make all the rules. It's a hidden asset class. Yeah, I don't make 100% of my money, but I still make a good return on my money. So those are the 3 different ways to invest in them. I just found my niche and the least popular one because it means I have less competition.
Speaking on those myths you talked about earlier, what are some of the biggest myths that you've come across that people are always bringing up, besides the one you've already talked about, that people just really need to look at differently because it's not true?
Probably the biggest elephant in the room is the white trash, trailer trash. People never want to say it, but they're thinking it in their head because country songs and Netflix and all these different specials have made it funny to poke fun at. But it's like most stereotypes, it's not true. Yes, there are some trailer trash out there. I'm putting air quotes for people that are listening. But that same family might live in an apartment and they might live in a house, but you don't call them trailer trash then. Just because the home used to have wheels on it doesn't mean they all the homes attract trailer trash. It is the area I have found and the way you rehab it that dictates most of that. We can have any type of structure, an apartment, a mobile home, a house, and a bad area, and we fix it up pretty poorly. We are more likely to attract a not so good resident. Same person in all 3 of those, but all of a sudden you call them trailer trash once they live in the trailer versus the other 2. So the management is pretty similar on all of them. So the flip side is true as well. If we buy a nice property and we fix it up nice and we attract a nice, good paying resident to live there, well, they're not trailer trash. I think most of our residents are blue collar handyman, handy women. They take pride in their home. It's not uncommon. We drive by a month or 2 later, they fix it up and they put their welcome home signs. They made it their home and they stay a long time. They take pride in their home. But that doesn't mean it's all blue collar handyman, handy women. We also have someone that moved in a few years ago, white collar, straight out of college, IT working from home, making $75K a year starting out, which is above the average income in that area. He wanted privacy. He wanted a face yard for his family to live in, and he doesn't mind a mobile home. So it's not that stereotype. It's out there because it's funny, because media has made it funny. So you got to get rid of that And I'm sure we'll talk about other myths, because if you don't upgrade your mindset on it, you can never invest in them, because you're going to have a negative viewpoint on them, and you're just not going to make money if you have a negative viewpoint.
What are some unique challenges you face when it comes to investing in these mobile homes versus just investing in regular type of residential real estate?
One of the early on challenges, and I've touched on this a little bit, was the financing aspect of it. I think this would be a good time to maybe dive a little bit deeper into that, because like I said, no banks are going to finance it. And I started my investing career in the bank world. I think most of the people do. Well, the bank won't finance it. Well, how are we supposed to finance it? I did buy my first one with cash. I paid $16,000. That was the rest of my savings. And didn't have anything else. It was either going to work or it wasn't going to work. I was frustrated with my slow progress at that moment. So it worked. All right, well, I got another one under the contract. I'm out of money. Luckily, I had a coach at the time, and he coached me, well, why don't you ask a friend for money? A friend that has some in their IRA, because they may not want the returns all at once. Essentially, he lent me the money, actually $16,000, so it's funny, the same number. And we did the math. I paid him off 5.5 years later. And I paid him off, and in his entire time, he made 17.5% on his money. So people are like, well, how can you make money? That's too much. That's too much. I had $500 in the deal, and I was making $220 a month. So who actually had the better deal there? We both had a fantastic deal. I mean, I'd take either side of that every day. Well, who wants to lend me more money now? The guy that made 17.5%. And now I don't pay that much anymore because I've proven myself. So when we start out, sometimes we have to pay a higher rate, quote unquote, but we get the movement going with that. So now I fund my business off of private money, meaning friends and family that know, like, and trust me. They get diversification. They get some joys of real estate without the day-to-day management. So if they want to know some stories, like, we get to tell them diversification from their other stuff. But I'm helping friends make money while I make money. It's a hard concept to fully grasp, that humans will just lend each other money without a bank involved. Because really, when you put your money in the bank, all the bank's doing is taking it and lending it out at a higher rate. So skip the bank and lend it. Yeah, you have to understand it. You have to do the right paperwork. You want it all secured. You want a mortgage, just like a bank was going to do. You want all that done the right way. But the most important piece of all that is you need to know, like, and trust that person. You got to talk about what you do, your real estate business or any type of business. It doesn't have to be just real estate that you do this in. And we lend somebody out to friends, so I get some diversification. That is a huge for my business, because now I can buy anything that's non-bank financeable, as we've talked about a lot. That was more of a mindset hurdle. A lot of this business stuff is really mindset. We get stuck in our heads on it. Once I fully grasped that and understood it, and I proved myself, and I told people about what I do, well, now lots of people want to lend me money. That is a huge way. The other way that we finance is the owner. Now, on that older mobile homes, so in the 1960s and 70s, everyone knows they're not financeable. I shouldn't say everyone. Most people know. The owner definitely knows. So they don't tell me, well, why don't you go to a bank? They already know. And a lot of times they actually bought with owner financing. So it's just not a brand new topic to them. Oh, Nathan, I will pay you that price. Whatever price you're saying. Let's say you're saying $30,000. Nathan, I can give you $30,000 if it's on payments. And then if you don't say no right away, all right, let's have a discussion. What does that look like? So I'll pay your price. I'm not going to try to get you all the way down on price and ask you for payments. That's greedy. But solving the problem, once I really got over that, it has been a game changer to business. And today, actually, as of April of 2022, I have zero bank financing. I don't deal with banks in that world. I deal with humans. I also get an emotional value out of paying a human. I know their story. I know the money's going to their retirement or their kids' college savings, whatever the story is. I get value in helping them out.
What's kind of the price people can expect to pay for one of these good mobile homes? What's the profit margins they should be after? What kind of expenses maybe should they expect?
Luckily, I have two recent properties we have purchased that are the opposite ends of the spectrum that I can use recent deals. Let's talk about the older one first. This is actually one of the absolute worst properties I've ever bought. And I did not want to buy it because I get mentioned earlier, like I'm kind of over the swinging the hammer, the really ugly, dirty, smelly, terrible type of properties. But there's money here. So I bought it for about $37,000, and I immediately owner financed it. This is the story I was alluding to earlier, at 14.02% to someone I had already done business with. I know, like, and trust him. I actually kind of tried to talk him into buying it from me because I didn't want to do the work. So we have $37,000. I think we put about $1,000. We had to do a tiny bit of cleanup. We had to do an eviction. So we had to solve some problems here. But then we handed it over to him, and we're now getting, I think he put $1,000 down from my memory, and we're getting $350 a month. Well, that $37,000 we bought it with, we actually bought it with owner financing. So our payment to the owner is $125 a month. So we're making a pretty nice spread there, and that's 0%, by the way. So we're paying 0% out at $125, and we're collecting $350 at 14%. So that is a good spread right there. Now, the opposite end. We paid, this is it's the 1980s. Normally it would be more of a 1990s I'd be doing this with, but the deal worked. We paid $116,000. It's a quarter acre of land. It's in a better area. Path of progress. Maybe a builder comes and buys me out. I think one will in the next 10, 20 years. But I'm not going to put my whole investments just on a maybe one day. I call those my lotto tickets. The dirt's my lotto ticket, but I have to make money along my path. So we pay $116,000. I'm waiting for the final numbers to come back from the bookkeeper, but I think we put about $37,000 into it in rehab. I believe it's going to be my largest rehab budget I've ever done on a mobile home. And we have it rented at $1,850 a month. It's not as good of a return on investment as the last one, but it's a stronger property. There's going to be some appreciation. There's some dirt value there. It's a more attractive property, and we're still able to make money along the way of waiting for a few decades for the dirt to be cashed out to a builder. It kind of gives you the two opposite ends. Now, that's what I did today, where I'm at today in my business. We'll say 4 years ago-ish, the second property that I bought for $116,000, I would have wholesaled that. I would have wholesaled it to another investor that wanted to keep it, maybe another investor that's going to fix and flip it, because there's some equity there. And I was after only cash flow and really high return on my investment cash flow. So I would have wholesaled it, signed the contract with someone else, taken the cash from that to go buy the mobile homes that have massive cash flows. Because my focus then was very singular. All I cared about is a high return on my investment because I want to grow fast. Today, like I said, I want a little less headaches. It just depends on where we're at. 4 years from now, I don't know what I would do with that property because I don't know the position I will be in. Maybe I need more cash flow. Maybe I need more upside. Maybe I decide to fix and flip. I don't think so, but who knows? So we have to make a decision based on our goals at that moment of the business.
Going back to like buying the mobile home itself, you had said that the area is pretty important as well. Do you drive by 100% of the properties you buy and check those areas yourselves? Is there some sort of website you use or reference? Do you have a team that maybe does some research for you?
I started in my own backyard, meaning 30 minutes from where I lived. I take that back. We'll go back a little further. I was looking about an hour and a half out, and I quickly realized after driving to look at some of those properties, I don't want to drive that far. But this is back when I was swinging the hammer, I was doing painting everything, I was doing all the work. So I very quickly moved it to a 30-minute. I got to know those areas really fast. I didn't know every single area when I started out. So yes, I was just jumping on Zillow, all the websites and looking. Nothing special. I don't have any subscriptions to anything. I don't use all the, we'll say, fancy technology to give me all those answers. If I don't know the area, I go drive over there. There was one property that we bought once that was not in my buying area. It was in a rough part of town. And the person that brought me the lead said, no, it's just trust me, it's not. So I went and hung out for 2 hours on a Friday night. And I was like, you're right. This is a pretty good road. It's not a bad road. There's not all that crime that I stereotyped out there. So we did buy it. Knock on the neighbors' doors. Just go and hang out there. I've gone in door knock neighborhoods that I thought I wanted and quickly found out from talking to the neighbors, I don't want to buy anything in this neighborhood. And I'm actually now worried because my car's on the opposite end where they told me the cops are always at. You can say I'm a little more old school, but I have found out little things like that. I found out what rent is higher in areas that I could not find that data online. Yes, we look online for something, but I just have not found the online world to be as accurate as being there in person. Now, I don't live in Central Florida anymore. I unofficially moved. So how do I buy properties in an area I can't go look at? I am fortunate that I really learned my area, but I still don't know it perfect, and you still got to figure that out. I have a good team. I have a fantastic office manager, but that's not her expertise in the business. But she can go there. We can FaceTime. I can have friends that are in the business. Hey, can you go check out and walk this property? I have a few different things I do. So I'm essentially a virtual business owner, but I started there. So I have a really good base of that. And no matter what I do with all of that, I'm going to spend a little bit more money. So I had to start baking that into my numbers because no one's going to understand that business as well as me. So I have to know that there's going to be some oops in there. My office manager, we FaceTime, she looks around where she's learning more and more of what the final product should look like from the contractors. But there's going to be some oops because I just have the eye for it. That is where my expertise comes in. And we miss some stuff. So I just know that we have to bake that in. We're going to make some mistakes. It's going to cost me a little bit more money. But that's the price I'm deciding to pay by living in a different market that I invest in.
For the second half of real estate, the tenants, how do you screen for tenants? How do you know you have a good one?
Before I start this topic, we are not talking about only mobile homes here. People think that you have to manage and screen for tenants differently with a mobile home or a trailer than a house or an apartment. It's essentially all the same, the way we manage at least. The very first piece I want you to do is find your avatar residents. So resident tenants, we like to, I think resident has a little bit better perception, which is one reason we use the term resident. So who's your avatar? You have a different avatar if you're an Airbnb host than a long-term rental. You have a different avatar if you're a midterm, or you have a property in the mountains versus the city. There's different avatars of who's going to live there. So many people focus on the avatar of the person selling the house or mobile home, but not enough people think of the avatar of the person that's going to live there. Of course, we have to comply with fair housing. You're not going to, go with race and sex and all of that stuff. You're not going to discriminate against that. So ours is the blue-collar handyman, handywoman. I mentioned that. That's most people that live in our properties, but it's not everyone. Let's talk about the blue-collar handyman, handywoman. Where do they want to live? What do they want? So they don't want to live in the city. They love a fenced yard, I have found out. They love a workshop. See, they have maybe a lawn service. So an HOA is going to tow their vehicle because they have a trailer behind it. They have branding for their lawn service on the side of the vehicle, or plumbing, or electrical. Well, they also a lot of times work on their own vehicles. So they like a little workshop or a shed or garage of some sort. They love those. How do we rent an acre, 3-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home for the same price as the newer build single-family house in the HOA with granite countertops when ours doesn't? Because the person that's living in ours, they may not fully be aware they're doing this, but they're valuing the land, the fenced yard, that acre. So they're kind of renting the acre of land and they're renting the mobile home. Well, in a HOA community, you don't have any space. So that's how there's different values. The person that lives in an HOA might be like, I don't want to mow all that. The person that wants the acre of land because they want some chickens and rabbits and they want the fenced yard for their dog and all that, they are like, there's not enough room over there. Why would I want that? You have to think about what they truly want. Now, I mentioned some barn animals just now. I like them. Not everyone does. I grew up with barn animals. We allow those in our properties. We haven't had a horse yet, but I know one day we will. And we allow that. What does that also mean? those people have less places to move. They have less options. So they don't move as often because they like the property that we provide for them. So we found our avatar, what do they want? And we now go shopping for that person. When you're starting out, you don't know what this avatar is. It's just, you have to figure it out. It's who we get along with the best, and we go shopping for that person. It's who I have found gets along with me, probably because I grew up in a entrepreneur, blue collar, handyman like world, and I grew up with all the barn animals. So I relate to that person more. And I have found that they take care of the property the best, they stay the longest, and we get along the best. So that's what I look for, because then my job's easier and they pay rent on time. That is our management high level, very first step of it. Now we have to rehab it to attract them. And I mentioned earlier, if we don't rehab at all and it looks terrible, who are we going to attract to live there? We also have to set clear expectations. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see landlords or housing providers make. They don't set clear expectations. Heck, I didn't do it for the longest time. I took the lease, I slid it over, I said, sign here. And I was scared because if they asked any questions about the lease, I had no idea what it meant. Now, we go over the lease for an hour to hour and a half. We talk about every little thing in it. We talk about why it's there. I give examples of different scenarios and what happened. And yes, that has scared some people away from our lease because they start learning, well, these people are actually going to enforce this lease. And yes, we are. And the lease isn't all one-sided where it only helps us. We set the expectation. This is what you can expect from us. Now, yes, we expect this from you. And we want you to live here for a very long time. We set those very clear expectations. And then once they move in, we don't hang up and forget about them at all. We're there to support them in their home that they live in, even though they're renting it from us. It's their home, and we're there to help them and support them. We had some people recently wanted to have some work done on the place. We connected them with our handyman. It wasn't work that we were going to have done, but we said, yeah, here's his phone number. You two take care of it, and he'll help you out because they're taking care of the property.
For people maybe looking to get started now, but possibly afraid to dip their toes in the water, what's some good educational resources that you might be able to offer?
I'm going to shamelessly plug my own stuff, lifestyle-rei.com. And we'll give you, you go lifestyle-rei.com/brothers, and we'll have a free PDF you can download there with some more of the myths that we talked about. We got 14 of them to upgrade your mindset. Start with that. The other thing I really want you to do is keep listening to the podcast. And maybe at the end of this now, you're like, yep, mobile homes are interesting. Or maybe you're like, nope, mobile homes are not it. Now you can scratch something off. Because that shiny object syndrome is real. Now it can be good. That's one way I found the mobile homes. I was searching. But when it's too wide, you're not going to do well. There's so few people I've seen going after everything. They may be successful dollar-wise, but not personal life. They're running. So I remember when I was listening to a podcast, I heard about notes, and I heard a few, and I said, you know what? Those aren't for me. Scratch it off. There's one less thing on my shiny object list. And I slowly did that until I had a handful of things, and then I went after the mobile homes because it was still left in that bucket. Now, that doesn't mean I don't do notes today. Yeah, I have a few notes, but not when I was in growth mode. I couldn't handle the mental bandwidth to do that many. I also want to encourage you to pick one thing and go all in. Pick the one you want. I don't know what the perfect shiny object time is, but I think it's at a max of 8 to 10 months. That's a very long shiny objects time. That's probably for our engineers that need a lot more questions answered. Pick something and commit to it. I used to say 6 months. I really want to say maybe 8 to 10 months again, about that time frame, and commit all in. Become that person. I am a mobile home buyer. I buy mobile homes. People in my area are tired of hearing me talk about it because that's all I talk about. But I do have money in other pockets of real estate, but I'm known as a mobile home guy. I tell people over and over, and when you get singular focus, you can laser in on those things and make a lot of offers. I'd like you to fail forward. It's a great book by John Maxwell. Essentially, I have studied all kinds of successful people, and one common thing I have found they all do. They take a little action and they fail forward. They get back up. They ask for help. Maybe they're in a mastermind group. They have a coach. They go back to their education, and then they do it again. And they fail forward, and they continue to do that for the rest of their life. I'm still doing that today. I don't know anyone highly successful that doesn't still do that at this point in their business, no matter how many zeros they have on their income, because there's always a new thing and there's always a new mistake to make, and things change. Like, we could have never predicted, we'll say, the COVID. There's someone out there that was right, because if you make a prediction long enough, you're eventually going to become right. But you got to take that massive imperfect action, as my late friend Bill would say, and I added on and asked for help. If we take massive imperfect action, we plan to fail. So now once we fail, we have to ask for help. If not, you stay down.
That was beautiful, Adrian. And honestly, I want to thank you for coming on to the show. We really appreciate you having on here today.
Appreciate you having me too. If I can ever help you out, let me know.
And one last thing, if anyone does have any more questions for you, how can they reach you?
Well, once you go to my website there, it'll put you on my email list, because I email blog articles I write. But you can just go to Lifestyle REI on most social medias. I'm the most active on Instagram. Sorry, I had to think about Instagram and Facebook. My team helps with the other platforms, but shoot me a message there, and if I can help you out, let me know. I also have a book. I actually forgot to even plug that, How to Buy Mobile Homes. Kept this topic simple, but shoot me a message. If I can help you in some way, I'd love to help, and you got to take the action though.
Great. And thanks again for coming on here. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
If you enjoyed that episode, then make sure to check out episode 5 of the 529 podcast, where we interviewed Eddie Padron, a full-time cop who has made over $250,000 flipping houses on the side. Be sure to watch our YouTube shorts, TikToks, and Instagram reels, where we highlight the best parts of each episode. If you're not already, make sure to follow us on all of our socials, which are linked below in the description, and make sure to tune in every other Monday for more episodes. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your 529. Later, folks.